Behold Roll, Megaman's sister, and the second in Kotobukiya's Megaman model kit line. Now, as a model kit, we had quite a bit to go through before we got this final toy. So before we get into what makes it a good figure, let's see what it took to get this far. You can see here's all the pieces out here, the polycaps, all the pieces. Roll is a little bit more intimidating than the other sets because she's got a lot of extra parts for both of her forms. So this is going to be a little bit arduous. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, when you get to the feet, I want you to be careful. You've got two bottoms of the feet that look identical. That's for her different leg styles. Make sure you use the right one. There's really no undoing it. Also, there's gonna be a polycap that goes right in there. It's got to go in at a certain angle, or the part's not going to fit together correctly. So this is where you really need to pay attention to the directions. Now with the legs complete, the next task is the uncomfortable one. I now have to assemble a little girl's panties. And it's kind of disturbing, especially when I have this piece to put in there, and you know what? I'm not even going for that joke. Let's just keep going. Okay, now I just made an enormous mistake. Almost. See, I came close to mismatching colors because there are two sprues on this marked E. But the instructions to tell you which one, flesh or blue, are in Japanese. So, yeah, this was actually kind of stupid of me. Just don't make the same mistake. Now at this point, Roll is essentially done. The completed figure stands before you. However, there is still a lot to do. As you can see, she has alternate legs and feet, alternate arms, a ton more hands to do, extra faces, an extra hairpiece. But I don't think you have to sit through all of that now, do you? Now, this particular build looks like it took me about an hour. It's pretty simple compared to most model kits. Not too much of a sweat if you are paying attention to not only the instructions, but the parts you are using at the time. But, no, it's a pretty fun build. I mean, that wasn't too hard. And with that out of the way, everyone look at the little girl I built. This is Roll as she appears in Mega Man 8 and the games thereafter. A little bit more robotic in appearance with the tall boots to better match other aesthetics from the game, like her brother Megaman here. Overall, it's a really nice design. It's the one I prefer the most anyway. You can see a lot of the detailing. Let me start at the face, because for some reason I put the face off to the end a lot of these videos, and that's not how you're supposed to do things. Very expressive, with a lot of little paint apps to make sure you get everything across. The teeth are actually a molded piece with a painted-in mouth, and there's even a little bit of molding for the tongue. You'll also see a little bit of the highlight on the cheeks. Very anime-esque eyes, very expressive with a little bit of an eye line all the way around. Hair's molded particularly well as well. You've got these on little ball joints, so they are a little bit adjustable as you need them. You've also got the green bow in her hair. And the ponytail as well is also articulated. So you get a little bit of motion here. You can have her hair swing in the breeze or whatever. It's one of those things where they didn't have to do it, but they did, so you get a nice little bit of variety to her. Now let's look at her chest. I heard giggling. Knock it off. As you can see, she's a little bit more detailed here than her classic appearance with that little, I don't even know what you'd call this little collar thing she's got going on with the strangely placed buttons. I will tell you that this is the piece that's loose on this toy. Kotobukiya seems to have these collar pieces that are very loose all the time so they don't interfere with articulation, especially in the head, which is a little strange. Part of me wishes it was locked down a little bit, but I also realize why they do it, so it's just something to live with. You can also see here in the shoulders where all the joints are, you've got a lot of articulation going on. Full ball joint in the shoulder as well as a rotation in the bicep, and a pretty good elbow, gets a good 90 degrees of rotation. Wrists are on ball joints, so you've got a little bit of back and forth, and it rotates all the way around as well. You've got waist articulation as well, though between the collar, that's a little bit tricky, and the dress line, making it a little hard to grip onto anything solid. It's a little bit tricky to use. I did make a joke about the fact that they gave her like fully molded panties, but honestly, yes, upskirt shot. Honestly, the alternative was a flesh-colored piece, and that would have been worse. So I will take the lesser of two evils on that one. You can see the boots a little bit closer to how they would look on a normal Megaman-styled robot with the button thing. I never knew what these were on the sides and a more solid look. These pieces here do hinder the articulation in the knees a little bit. I mean, they do move up to almost 90 degrees. Not quite though. That's a downfall. But it's not much of one though. It still works out. The articulation I really like is in the feet, because you've got a full, oh jeez, if I could actually keep it in the light. You do have a tilt in the ankle, so you can move it and have an open leg stance without her losing balance. I love when they include that these days. And while the forward tip isn't all that much, going backwards, you've got a ton of motion. So you've got a little bit of posing option there. All in all, very well articulated figure. And I always forget something at the head. I will include fully ball jointed neck piece, though her little pigtails in front do get in the way a little bit of that articulation, not a whole lot. Overall, very solid figure considering it's something you built yourself. Now, since Roll lacks a blaster arm of her own, she has her own optional accessories to make up for this. That being the fact that you can change her between her modern appearance and her classic one. Which means, along with extra hands, you're also going to get extra legs, extra arms, and extra faces. And the way the faces go together is actually pretty interesting. You've got two different pieces, if I can demonstrate here, where you've got your inner eye plus teeth as well as the face. This allows you to incorporate different faces and expressions using the same eye pieces. Now, some of them only have one, so, these two will probably never leave each other. On the others, you have a little bit of an option. You also have the ability to create your own set of eyes using a blank as well as a sheet of water slide decals. Now, this is a little bit more technical, so I'm not going to demonstrate it here, and I kind of like having this piece if I ever get a idea that I really want to use. Like God Roll! We have our finished classic mode Roll, as she appeared in the NES and Super Nintendo game. Well, it has the same points of articulation, so I don't have to point that out. I've also taken the liberty of showing her opened hands on this form. Now, while the articulation doesn't change, what does is a little bit of the aesthetic. Her joints become far more recognizable, especially here in the wrist. Also, on the legs, the knees are much more exposed here. This does present a bit of a problem because, unlike Megaman, who has something of a bodysuit and has an all-robotic appearance because of it, you expect clean skin when you see this, Caucasian skin. Unfortunately, it doesn't really quite work out. The joints just become far too exposed and makes her look a little broken up. You see the bare arms look okay, though. I mean, it does give the presence of the original classic design of Roll. And I guess the only real major new detail are the old school shoes with the slight exposure on the top. I don't know, it does give you a lot of different display options. I'm glad to have both the options available. It not only doubles the longevity of the figure as a display piece, but it also gives you a lot more options than the other ones provide. Overall, as a figure, Roll has a lot going on. Yeah, I prefer the Mega Man 8 look because it fixes a few of the problems that are present in the classic appearance, but fans of the 8-bit Mega Man series are going to demand this classic appearance you see her in now, and it is a great option for them to include with the lack of accessories and blasters that the character normally has. I much prefer it over giving her a broom. Now, mine came from Hobby Link Japan, and yours should too. This line I've really loved so far, and unfortunately it looks like it's going to switch up a little bit. The next one in line is Mega Man Zero, my least favorite of the Mega Man designs. But construction-wise, I've been happy with all three of these. If you're a fan of that aesthetic, then that one should be fine too. Me, I'm going to sit this series out until they get back to making a Bass or hopefully some other figure that doesn't have metal panties.